Print servers in federal environments create risk and unnecessary complexity. Every new printer, location, or policy adds strain to infrastructure that was never built for today's demands. FedRAMP High Authorized Printer Logic eliminates print servers with a secure cloud-native, zero-trust solution designed for federal IT. With advanced security, centralized control, and simplified management, agencies can modernize print without added burden. See what secure serverless printing looks like. Visit Vasion.com to learn more.
Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Add the employees of the Agriculture Department's Foreign Agriculture Service to the growing list of federal workers who have successfully challenged the Trump administration's return-to-work policies. A third-party arbitrator on Monday sustained the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees grievance that USDA violated the collective bargaining agreement and the Telework Enhancements Act when ending telework without negotiations. With more on this latest case and what the growing list of losses means for the administration, Federal News Network's executive editor Jason Miller joins me now. Jason, thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure, Terry.
What did the arbitrator rule in this latest grievance that AFS-CME filed on behalf of its members on the Foreign Agriculture Service?
This is the second in about a week that the Agriculture Department lost before a third-party arbiter. And in this one, Barbara Denhart sustained the AFS-CME, say that fast 3 times, grievance because they said, well, we had employees who had in their collective bargaining agreements as part of the union contract the ability to telework. And to change that decision, it has to go through negotiations. And what we saw time and again is this administration just did kind of a blanket, no more telework. It's over, despite the fact the union and the agency had agreed through their contract to negotiate over telework. It didn't stop there either. They also violated the Telework Enhancement Act because of eligibility issues, which basically said if you're eligible to telework, you should have that opportunity. Now, the agency can obviously decide whether or not you do or don't, but you should be able to talk about it and have that. You can't just blanketly say nobody is allowed to telework. And interesting enough, I think the third piece here is, again, they violated the collective bargaining agreement on another section of it where they talk about that basically you need to grant case-by-case basis on who can telework and when. The fact is that the arbiter said the restrictive language in the collective bargaining agreement applied just as it applied to other places, whether it's HUD or EPA. So again, she's finding a lot of the same things that other arbiters have found when it comes to this return to office policy.
Well, to that point, how does this decision compare with the decision that Rural Development Agency employees won before a different arbitrator last week?
This was interesting, too. About 135 employees, again, filed the grievance through AFSCME. And this time, the arbiter, Margaret Donahue, found, again, very similar. Number one, the agency committed unfair labor practices. It engaged in bad faith bargaining, implemented conflicted that conflicted with the existing agreement, which is, again, saying no more telework, you can't do it anymore, and no negotiations around that. Now, interestingly enough, this also had very similar themes from the Foreign Agriculture Service. Again, this idea of in the agreement, we've agreed, the agency and the union, that this is something that we can do collective bargaining over. And time and again, they just have pushed it to the side. And I think part of the concern here is that the telework agreements, agency after agency after agency, the arbiters continue to find that the administration has just thrown it out the door, not paid attention to it, and has ignored it. And I think that's what's most interesting about this case, this new one, and then last week's as well.
As you string these USDA cases together with, as you said, agency after agency, there's a string of mounting losses for the Trump administration. How do you tie all of those together? What is the connective tissue?
According to Suzanne Summerlin, who's a lawyer for the unions, in this case, both Agriculture Department cases that we've been talking about, she says, by her count, this is about the 18th of the 20 cases, the grievances brought before arbitrators that the administration has lost. And when you talk about who they've lost, it's not one agency like Agriculture Department over and over again. It's agency after agency after agency, whether it's the FAA, it's a very small one, case there, or everyone that includes EPA, HUD, SSA, IRS, we can go on and on and on to the number of cases. What stood out to her is the arbitrator basically said the agency just burned the contract. They didn't even try to address it. They didn't even try to pretend to negotiate. They just, what she calls repudiation, which is just, they just tore it up, threw it out, and said enough. And I think that's not just one arbiter saying this. This is many arbiters saying it, and then building on each other's decisions time and again, where it's not a single person or single arbiter saying this was a bad case. It's again and again and again. And I think to Suzanne Summerlin, this is just an example of just how bad it has been around the decisions to return to the office, how much this has affected every agency so far, 20 in all. And I think she's just idea that this is the most egregious bad policy that the administration has pushed forward.
These decisions by the arbitrators sound good for employees, but it's not the end of the resolution. These cases are far from over. What happens next?
That is so true, and I think it's a minor win for the employees. Yes, it's a step in the right direction, but again, Suzanne Summerlin talks about, well, the agency, in this case USDA, in both cases we've been talking about, has 30 days to file an exception with the Federal Labor Relations Board, and that comes after the arbitrator's ruling. And these cases could still end up in federal court. It could go on for several more years, she said. And the irony about this is if the administration would have gone to the union at the very beginning and said, listen, we're not fans of telework. We want the return to office to happen. We're going to negotiate this. Gone to if they basically hit an impasse, it could go to an impasse panel. This all would have been settled by now. Yes, it would not have had the effect that maybe the administration wanted of getting the employees back in the office as soon as possible. But instead, there's this prolonged effort it could go through courts, through arbitration panels, and it's going to just cause people money, time, frustration, morale. All these things, I think, to her point, she says, could have been avoided. And by now, here we are, 18 months later, a lot of it probably would have been decided with some folks having already come back to the office and the administration hitting many of their goals, which is to bring people back together. They believe they work better together. They believe we have all this office space that the government pays for. We should be using it. Obviously, the COVID pandemic has been over now for several years. There's no reason why you shouldn't be back in the office. Now, there's plenty of employees who disagree with that. There's plenty of people who say could explain why they don't want to be in the office. But that's part of collective bargaining, which the government agreed to, and by, again, just tearing the contract up and lighting it on fire and giving it up, again, Suzanne Summerlin says that this all could have been avoided. Instead, we have bad policy, and here we are going before arbiters and courts and the like.
That's Federal News Network's executive editor, Jason Miller. Jason, thanks for keeping us posted on this.
My pleasure.
You can find his story at federalnewsnetwork.com.